LegacyMaker, the All Sports Network.
Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you back here. We're here for another Legacy Maker Sports Short. I'm Darrell Owens, along with me, as always, the partner in crime, Mr. Jeremiah Quimby, our NFL and NCAA expert, to bring you this recap of the Washington Redskins draft here, this 2019 draft. And what a draft it was for the Washington Redskins, fulfilling a lot of needs in the process. But, of course, probably the biggest need of all, the one that we have all been wondering what the Redskins would do with, is with that first pick at number 15. The Washington Redskins decided we got to go quarterback, and luckily Mr. Dwayne Haskins fell to them at number 15 from Ohio State. Jay, what were your thoughts on that first pick of Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State?
I love the pick. I was just blown away. He was still sitting there at 15. Nobody tried to move up. And, you know, him with Jay Gruden's offense, it's almost a match made in heaven. He's got the chip on his shoulder, you know, being a New Jersey guy and not getting picked by the Giants where everybody thought he was going to go. Oh, this is a match made in heaven, dude. He gets to see him twice a year.
Now, do you think that Haskins will start the season as a starter? Now, of course, the Redskins did but the Redskins did trade for Case Keenum. They do have Colt McCoy, who is returning from an injury. But do you see Dwayne Haskins starting the season at the quarterback position for the Washington Redskins?
Well, I mean, with the quarterback position there, I mean, last year they went through quarterbacks like most people go through TP, you know. So as long as Keenum does what he's supposed to, he might set a year. They might do the Aaron Rodgers approach. But with the way he played last year in Denver, you could see Haskins come in by week 6 once that, they play the Patriots.
Yeah, that's the kind of the feel that I have for it. I think week 6 might be the one, that week 5, week 6 matchup, that around that range is what we need to look for possible for Dwayne Haskins sighting, unless unforeseen injury happens to Mr. Case Keenum. Now, with that other pick in the first round, which they didn't have at first, the Washington Redskins traded back into the first round to get their Preston Smith replacement and Mr. Montez Sweat from Mississippi State at the 26th pick. Now, with that pick, they gave their second-round pick to the Colts at that time, and then they wouldn't pick again to the third round. But what are your thoughts of Montez Sweat heading to D.C.?
I think they got my number one player at 2 positions of need. I mean, like you said, replacing Preston. Ryan Anderson, they took him in the second round in 2017, really hasn't produced the way they wanted him to. Ryan Kerrigan's getting ready to be 31. You know, he's on the downward. Montez could be the steal of this first round, hands down, just because of his ability. He went to Mobile and just destroyed first-round tackles like there was no other. He can bend. He can bull rush. Everything you could want, he can do.
Well, that's a huge, huge pickup now. The Redskins did a good job in that first round, in my opinion, getting a huge part of their offense here in the future and a huge part of their defense with Sweat and Haskins. Now, let's swing to the third round where Dwayne Haskins needs somebody to throw the football to, and who better than his former Ohio State teammate, Terry McLaurin, obviously from Ohio State. What are your thoughts on Mr. Terry heading to D.C.?
I love the pickup. The thing that I've learned about him just from being an Ohio State fan myself, not only is he his work ethic is unquestionable, but he is a great leader. I see him as a future coach once he's done with what I expect to be a very long NFL career.
And the Redskins didn't have to wait too much longer before they got 2, ladies and gentlemen, 4th-round picks. And that first 4th-round pick number 112, Mr. Brice Love, running back from Stanford. A lot of people had Brice Love fall into the 7th round, but the Redskins said, no, we're going to take this young man at 4. What are your thoughts, Brice Love, heading to D.C. at 4, making it almost a pretty legit backfield in D.C.?
Great pickup. I mean, Brice Love kind of shot himself in the foot by coming back for his senior season. I mean, he got the degree, which, you know, in my opinion is the smartest thing you could do is get a degree, but, you know, derailed by injuries, the torn ACL, people were worried about stiffness in the knee. You know, Darius Geis was lost preseason last year because of this second-round pick. AP had a phenomenal bounce-back year. This depth for this running back, well, I don't want to say class, but the running back group that the Redskins have is unbelievable.
Well, you know, Jay, I can't wait to see what this running back duel will be able to do, or this trifecta of running backs will be able to do in D.C. this year. Now, the other 4th round pick the Washington Redskins had 131, Mr. Wes Martin, guard from Indiana.
I didn't hate the pick. There was a couple other needs they could have addressed on the board, you know, but it brings depth. They've been nothing but injury prone the last couple years. So you bring Martin in. Martin's a mauler type. He just really doesn't have that mobility that you want on, you know, stretch plays, things like that. But developmental. We'll see what happens. You know, they brought in Eric Flowers, moved him from tackle to left guard. So this was just basically adding depth.
Well, it looks like the Redskins weren't quite done with gaining more depth on that offensive line. Now, we knew that at one point last year they lost 3 guys in a week, and within 1 week of the season they had to go sign a whole bunch of guys off the street just to try to finish the season in a good spot with the offensive line. So you got to love the depth here. But well, the 5th round comes around, and guess what? They weren't done yet. Pick 153, Ross Pierschenbach, center from Alabama. What are your thoughts on Mr. Pierschenbach coming to D.C.?
Actually, I like him more than I do the Martin pick because of his versatility. He's played guard first 3 years at Alabama and then played center all of last year. Now, I remember a couple of times during the national championship game and the playoff game that he had some, you know, a couple high snaps. I think one went over to his head, you know, not his natural position, but once again, learning curve. Absolutely love his ability to run and pull. Great upper body strength. Love this pick.
Well, guess what? The Redskins weren't done in the 5th round. They had a second 5th round pick, 173, Cole Holcomb, the linebacker from North Carolina, needing some help in that linebacker core. What are your thoughts on the linebacker from North Carolina?
Holcomb, for the last 3 years, has led North Carolina in tackles. The thing that really pops out to me is he ran a 4.48 in the 40-yard dash. So that brings you speed to the center of that defense. And, you know, don't forget they got, you know, Mason Foster, Reuben Foster there. And that is somebody great for Holcomb to, you know, learn from. And he, you know, has special teams experience. So put him over there. You could even put him at a gunner with that type of speed at linebacker. That's insane.
The Redskins definitely look like they were, like we said earlier, definitely trying to attack those needs and definitely need their linebacker. Love that move there. Now, as they had only one 6th round pick, and that was Kelvin Harmon, wide receiver from North Carolina State. What are your thoughts on Harmon coming to D.C.?
I was blown away with the fact that Harmon was still on the board because I had him as a second day type of guy, to be completely honest with you. 6'3", you know, he's a possession receiver, not great on the route running, but, you know, has all the intangibles to become, you know, a great receiver. You know, And you look at what they got at receiver. They bring in McLaurin. Josh Dotson really hasn't lived up to that first-round expectation. Paul Richardson, they have him slated on the depth chart as a slot receiver. But after that, it kind of gets a little blurry. I mean, you got Brian Quick, who really hasn't been great. Trey Quinn wasn't really what we thought he would be. Still has a chance. Love Kelvin Harmon pickup. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, with McLaurin and Harmon coming in, they had Sims last year, another Alabama player. We know how much the Redskins love Alabama players. He only got to play a few games before he got hurt last year. So it'll be interesting at that receiver position this year. They didn't pick up Dotson's fifth-year option. So this is a put-up-a-shut-up year for Mr. Dotson in D.C. Now, the Redskins had 2 7th-round picks, and they decided to go defense with both of those picks. At 227, they went Jimmy Moreland, cornerback from James Madison, who doesn't have to travel too far to head to work now.
Once again, amazing pick. They really did their research. One of our guys on our draft show had Jimmy Moreland as their sleeper. He's a bit short, only 5'11", but got the ball instinct. He had 18 interceptions at JMU. I love him in the slot. You know, you got Norman getting a little older. They brought in Dominic Rogers-Camardi, who's older than I am. Dunbar was good last year. Stroman got beat way more than he should have for being a starter. So I really like Moore. I don't see him playing outside unless they switch to a press type of coverage, but I see him in the slot, and I see great things for him.
Now, with the last pick of the Redskins draft and the next to last pick in the actual NFL draft itself, the Redskins went with Jordan Brailford, defensive end for Oklahoma State. What were the thoughts for the Redskins here in this last pick?
It's just another feeling that they're not completely sold on Ryan Anderson, man. This guy, he's 6'4", ran a 4.65, which is really fast for that frame. Edge rusher, absolutely feel they're going in depth. Another guy you can throw out there on special teams to make tackles and learn the perspective position. I got a feeling we're going to see some surprises coming from this class. Ultimately, this, in my mind, you know, a lot of people are raving about what the Cardinals did, and the Cardinals did some good stuff. They went with people that fit their new scheme, but this is an A-plus class, in my opinion, for what fell to them, what they were able to get at picks without having to move too much. I mean, they came back into the second round and got one of the best defensive players available. Top 10 pick in my mind at 26. So,
yeah, I mean, the Redskins, and I think watching it myself, just sitting back and watching it as a football fan, the first thing that came to my mind was, wow, the Washington Redskins are having a really great draft. Along with the Arizona Cardinals, like you were speaking of, the Buffalo Bills, teams like that did a really good job. But I think the Redskins did a really good job of finding people that could help them immediately. Even with Haskins, even if Haskins ends up being a starter, I think he could help them immediately. The only thing is, the only thing that worries me about this whole thing, Jay, and you tell me how you feel about this. You know, Jay Gruden said about a month ago or so that if they're going to draft quarterback, you know, they're drafting because they feel like they're going to win with that quarterback, or they felt like that they were going to get somebody that could start day one. Now, of course, they've kind of backed up a little bit from that now, but with this being this could be Jay Gruden's last season. It's a possibility. Not saying that it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. This is a very tough year for Jay Gruden. Do you think that these guys can help Jay Grit over the hump and possibly get the Redskins back in the playoffs?
Well, if you go back before the devastating injury at quarterback, it was the Redskins' division to lose. And, Haskins has the best accuracy of any quarterback in this draft class. And as far as what I'm looking at, you got a couple great game managers. Case Keenum fit well in the, system up in Minnesota. It's not what Gruden runs. They were looking for a Band-Aid to put on a bullet hole. And guess what? In Haskins, I believe they found a surgeon to fix it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for tuning in to another Legacy Maker Sports Short, giving you a little bit update on the Washington Redskins draft and what a draft it was for the Washington Redskins. Training camp was about a few months away. They got mini camps heading up now. They have their rookie camp coming up. If it hasn't, I believe it has, or it's coming up this week. Their rookie camp, and then of course all of the other OTAs will be heading here soon. Once again, I want to thank my man, Mr. Jeremiah Quimby, for coming on. Jay, it's always a pleasure to have you, baby.
Oh, it's always my honor, man. And, love me some football.
All right, everybody. I'm Darrell Owens, Jeremiah Quimby, Legacy Maker Sports Network.